Welcome to the Dougie Wuggie Story Hour. Today's story is called Dougie Wuggie Gets His Driver's License. Dougie Wuggie gets his driver's license. A true story.
Is this actually?
Yes, it's actually true. So when I was 16, so when I was 16, I got my driver's license. Now, back in the old days, like when I was a kid, you didn't have to go to driving school. You didn't have to take lessons. You could just have your mom or dad or older brother or whoever teach you. And then you would just go, take the driving test, and if you passed, you get a license. So there's two parts to the test. One is you take a written test, and then if you pass the written test, you go outside and you get in a car, and there's a person who is like the instructor, and he goes, okay, we're going to drive around the neighborhood. And you drive around. He's like, go left, go right, back up, park. And if you pass that, then they give you your driver's license. So guess what? I passed.
Good. If you didn't.
Now, do you think I was a good driver?
No.
Not really, because basically I had just been taught by my mom, who was, maybe not the greatest driver and maybe not the best teacher. My dad, who was not a good driver and not a good teacher, and my brother, older brother, who was okay driver but not a very good teacher. So I really didn't have much experience. But anyway, I passed, and we drive home, and I say to my mom, hey, can I borrow the car? And she's like, where do you want to go? I said, I just want to go to my friend's house. She said, okay, do not go on the freeway. And I'm like, why? She said, because you've never driven on the freeway. You don't have any experience on the freeway. And I was like, really? She said, really? Repeat after me. I will not drive on the freeway, Repeat after me. She said it 3 times. I said, okay, Mom, I got it. You don't want me driving on the freeway. She said, no, I don't. So I drive over to my friend's house, who was maybe 5 minutes away, and he wasn't there. I drove to another friend's house. He wasn't there. And then I think, hey, wait a minute. My friend Jamie's home. He's always home on Fridays. He goes straight home from school because he has French lessons. So I know he's home. But the only way to get there was...
on the freeway.
You got it. And my brain was like, do it, Doug. Don't do it. Do it. Don't do it. And you know those cartoons with the angel and the devil on the guy's shoulder?
Yeah.
And the angel's like, don't do it. And the devil's like, do it. Don't do it. Do it. And then finally I just said, I'm just going to do it. Mom will never know. I was being a naughty little fellow, right?
Yes.
So I get on the freeway, and you will never guess what happened.
What?
No, nothing happened. I drove perfectly. No problems. I drove slow. I turned the radio off. I was concentrated. I was not distracted. There was hardly any traffic because it was the middle of the day. And I was like, no big deal. What's the big deal about the freeway? Jeez, Mom. Jeez, such a worrywart. I get off the freeway, and I'm like, okay. And I turn the radio on, and one of my favorite songs comes on. I'm drumming on the dashboard, which I like to do a lot. And I'm like, oh, this is, and then bam! I went right through a stop sign. I didn't see it. And this car hits me at 40 miles an hour. It's like, bam! Spins my car around, crunches the whole back end of my car, crunches the front of this dude's car. He comes out of the car screaming at me. And I'm like, oh my God, I am so in trouble. And then all these kids in the neighborhood, they were like, cool, a car crash, man. The kids like that stuff, right? There were like 10 kids in the neighborhood. And then the ice cream truck comes along, and they're like all eating their ice cream and like watching me like have a total freak out meltdown because I'm practically crying and my car is wrecked and this guy's screaming at me and the police come and then the police call a tow truck and I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And I was just like shaking and trying not to cry. And then the police officer said, how are you going to get home? And I said, I don't know. He said, are your parents at home? I'm like, my mom's busy and my dad's out of town. And so he said, all right. And so this old lady, she lived next door. She was like, if you want to use my phone, you can call somebody. So I call my mom, and my mom picks up. She's like, hello? I'm like, Mom? She's like, Doug, what's wrong? I'm trying not to cry. I had a little bit of a car accident. She said, what? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah. She said, is the car okay? And they're like putting the car up on the tow truck, and the whole side of the car is smashed in. And I'm like, not really. She said, where are you? I said, I'm over near Jamie's house. She said, you're way over there? Tell me the truth. Did you go on the freeway? I'm like, yes. She's like, oh my God. I said, but Mom, I didn't have the crash on the freeway. I got off the freeway and I got distracted and I went through a stop sign. And she's like, oh my gosh. She said, I can't come get you. I have my students over. She was a college professor. She said, you're going to have to take a taxi home. So I call a taxi cab and the guy comes, he takes me home, and my mom's like, go to your room.
Aren't you too old for that?
No, she said, I'm busy, go to your room, and I will talk to you later. And I'm like, oh God, I'm in my room. And then she comes up, and she's like, okay, I was just talking to your father, and he's coming over later. My parents were divorced, they didn't live together. And so my dad came over, and he said, and the two of them sat down on my bed, and they're like, okay, we don't want you to drive anymore. You need to get real driving lessons from an actual driving teacher. And we found this guy, his name is Mr. Chu, and he's going to come and teach you how to drive properly. And you know what my mom said? She said, it's kind of our fault because we didn't really get you proper driving lessons, so we're partially to blame. And in a way, that's kind of true. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like, it's a parent's responsibility to make sure their kid can drive safely. I mean, that's part of the job of being a parent.
True.
Yeah. So they took some responsibility for it. But wait, story's not over. I started taking driving lessons with Mr. Chu, but I was so nervous. So nervous. And guess what happened?
What? You crashed again?
No, I started having nightmares every night
What?
about car crashes, something with a car. It was always a nightmare about either being in a crash or being lost, or I couldn't find my car. Like I had parked the car somewhere on some street and I didn't know where it was, or something about cars. It was just always some bad dream about cars. And one night, I woke up in my bed. This is true. This is crazy. Do you know what sleepwalking is?
Yeah.
Some
Sleepwalked into your car.
Some kids actually, or people get up and they walk around in their sleep.
I have. Oh, me too. I have one. I saw a video.
And some people talk in their sleep and some people walk in their sleep.
Oh, I definitely talked in my sleep.
Okay, I got up in my room. This is true. I got up in my room and I thought my bed was my car. I know. I was like half awake, half asleep, and I'm like, oh my God, I drove the car into the bedroom. I am in so much trouble. Mom's going to kill me.
What, you thought you drove the car?
I thought I did. I was like sleepwalking. I was like half awake and half asleep. And I said, I got to get the car out of here before morning. And then I thought, I know, I'll drive it out the window. And then I'm like, but wait, I need a ramp so I can drive the car up the ramp and out the window. So I go to my bookshelf. I'm actually doing this. I go to my bookshelf, I take the books off, and I get the boards, and I make like a ramp up to the window. And I get on the end of my bed, and I'm like, start your engine. I mean, if you would come in the room, you would have seen me on the end of my bed, like trying to steer a car, or a bed, you might say. And then I'm like pushing on what I thought was the gas pedal, and I'm like, this car is not moving. Oh, great. And then I said, that's probably a bad idea, because if I drive it out the window, my bedroom's on the second floor, the car would be like, yeah! So that's a bad plan. And then I was like, dude, if you drove the car into the bedroom, just drive the car out of the bedroom. Duh! So I get on the end of the bed, and I'm trying to drive the bed out of the bedroom like this, and it's not moving. And then I finally just said, oh, forget it, and I just fall back asleep. And I wake up in the morning, and I open my eyes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the weirdest dream. That felt so real. And when I open my eyes, I look around the room, and what do you think I see?
A ramp.
I see the ramp up to the window, all the books on the floor, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going insane. And my mom comes in, she goes, good morning, what the heck? There's like 100 books on the floor and a ramp up to the window. And she's like, Doug, what's going on? And I said, I'll tell you at breakfast. And and then my brothers come in the room. They're like, dude, what the heck, bro? I said, I'll tell you at breakfast. And we go down to breakfast, and I tell them the story. And my brothers laughed so hard. My little brother, Peter, was drinking some milk. And the milk shot out of his nose, but he had a cold, so this big booger came flying out of his nose. This big, white, milky booger, and it lands in his cereal. So he had like Raisin Bran with bananas and boogers for breakfast. And that made us laugh even harder. And my mom was like, Doug, I think that car accident really messed your mind up. I'm like, yeah, it did. And then finally, after about 10 lessons, Mr. Chu said, okay, I think Doug is ready to drive again. And my mom gave me the keys again, and I drove. And also Mr. Chu taught me how to drive on the freeway properly. Thank you very much, Mr. Chu. And everything was fine until about 6 weeks later. I was late for school. I drove to school. I backed the car out of the driveway. I forgot to look in my rearview mirror, and I backed right into the neighbor's brand new Mercedes-Benz, which is a very expensive car. Yeah. And I smushed his driver's door. And he comes out screaming at me in his pajamas with his coffee. He's like, Doug, oh my God. And my mom comes out. She's like, Doug, give me the keys. And she gets on the phone to Mr. Chu. Mr. Chu, this is Doug's mom. He needs more driving lessons. So Mr. Chu comes over, gives me like 10 more lessons. And then finally, after 20 lessons, Mr. Chu said, I think Doug is good to drive. And after that, guess what? What? I have not been in an accident since then. I've been a very, very safe driver. And that's the true story of Dougie Wuggie Learns to Drive. Can I get a little cheer here? Thank you. We are signing out from the Dougie Wuggie Story Hour here at Head Royce School in Oakland, California. Let's give it up for Head Royce School. Over and out.